Hello there. I've not made a video in a little while, but this video is going to be about um, is it better, easier to promote cooked food, like a plant-based diet? How am I going to set this up? Okay, we'll just leave it like that, I guess. So maybe that's a bit unclear, but I had an interview with Robbie Barbaro. If you've not seen that, you can look on this channel, or you can go to different podcast platforms if you want to listen to it like that. And he's Mastering Diabetes. He's a co-author of that book, and he has a coaching company for people that want to eliminate their diabetes, and they're very good, right? And I asked him the question, because he's been a raw vegan. He's still 100% raw vegan and has been for, I think, close to 15 years. I don't think it's far off 15 years, like quite a long time. And I asked him if he thought that they reach more people with including like cooked food or whatever. And he said, "Oh yeah, definitely." And the people that were coming to their events, they were asking if they could have cooked food as well or whatever, right? I don't particularly think that's true. That you reach more people, or you affect more people, or you'll be able to change more people by encouraging them to do a cooked food diet, a cooked diet. You got to remember that people are already on a cooked diet. So the idea that, well, if we can get them to do something that's almost the same as what they're already doing, then we're more likely to get those people to do it. And I even find myself, if I'm talking to people, sometimes I think I don't necessarily, if people are asking me questions, I don't necessarily say, you have to go raw, you have to do this or that. I've never really had that approach. But on some level, I've thought over the years, actually, I should do that. I should only speak about raw. And I know there's plenty of information out there that if you've got these cardiovascular issues, heart disease, these heart issues, diabetes type 2, and a whole bunch, like loads of diseases, right? A lot of autoimmune conditions that that can be eliminated for many people on a whole food plant-based cooked diet with 100% cooked foods, with no fruits or vegetables, or not no fruits or vegetables, but with very little, right? Or with no raw fruits or vegetables. I totally believe that. That's just, to me, that's just obvious. And that is the case. And if you want to do that, you can do that. But I'm not seeing this typical pathway that people might think, that this person starts on a standard diet, then they go to a vegetarian diet, and then they go to a vegan diet, and then they go to a raw vegan diet, and then they go to a fruitarian diet or whatever. Like, no one is taking this clear path that everyone seems to think. And there are some people out there that aren't inspired. And this is what you got to remember. It's not about what you think is easier from the position you're in. Like, well, I do this raw vegan diet, but it would be easier for them to do the other thing, right? But that's you saying it from your perspective. The first thing is, it's not easy for people to change to a vegan diet who are not vegan. Most people are not even open to hearing about that or listening to what you're saying about that, right? So that's the first thing. The idea that if we can get this closer and closer and closer to the standard diet, we'll get more people to do it, is not exactly right. Although the vegan plant food industry, whatever, are getting closer to completely mimicking animal products, and maybe that's the way that everyone will go vegan eventually, right? And that'll be a good thing. But if you're talking about getting people to make a big change in their life and sticking to it, it also needs to be something that motivates them, that moves them, that for them really makes them, you know, I don't know exactly, that they can be passionate about, that they can really get into. And I feel there's too many people who do this plant-based thing because it's easier or whatever, who are plant-based, but they're having junk food now and again, more often than they would say. Maybe having animal products more often than they would say. So there's a lot of people online, they've come out against the raw food diet, but they're vegans or they're plant-based. And when people have fallen off the vegan diet, many of them will say, they were a raw vegan 5 years ago for 2 months. That's the problem. And they can't admit that some people struggle with just the normal vegan diet, or can't do it, or don't want to do it. And it might be easier in your mindset, but it's not as obvious as that, or as easy as that, is what I want to say to you, from my perspective, from what I've seen. When I'm working with people, coaching clients and things like that, I'm amazed at how many people make a fairly quick transition from standard diet or something, or playing around with different diets, to the simplicity of a raw vegan diet, and start to enjoy it really quickly. Not that they stick to 100%, but they really enjoy it. It's simple. It's actually quite easy. They like the taste of the food because it's mostly fruit, and they enjoy that. And for a lot of people, they have a problem with sweet food, ice cream, chocolate, biscuits, cakes. So they like having a diet of dessert, of fruits. They've potentially been told in the past, especially if you're a diabetic, you can't have anything sweet. So they've done that. They like the idea of having a lot of fruit. Plus it works amazingly well and amazingly quickly. I absolutely believe that, I feel like with Robbie and mastering diabetes, I feel like they've just kind of, let's just catch on to this wave of the plant-based thing, and all these very credible, people with doctor, whether they're really a doctor or not, beside their name, basically almost none of them are. Like, do they see patients? Like, how do they do like a book tour and 100 YouTube videos a month and all this stuff? And anyway, so regardless of that, but yeah, catching on that wave, the plant-based thing is obviously a wave. Veganism going as a wave. There's a whole bunch of people, but what's so weird about this is none of these people sit back and go, wait, we got inspired by the raw food movement. So a lot of these people, not your Dr. McDougall's and people like that from the past, but there's a whole bunch of people who are, promoting plant-based. They were either inspired by raw vegans, or they were a raw vegan themselves at one point. Now, they might have decided to now stick to plant-based diet. But I personally heard about a raw vegan diet before I heard about plant-based diet. I heard about raw vegans before I heard about, Forks Over Knives, the film, or the Veg Source, whatever website, or Dr. McDougall, Dr. Barnard, all those American guys. I didn't hear about any of them. I came across Tim Van Orden, Durian Ryder, Doug Graham. I came across this, and Valerio Christina Freely. Came across all these raw vegans for some reason. It might have just been the time that I got into this. But when I was researching veganism, the thing that really caught my attention, the thing that really pulled me into changing my diet and this becoming a passion for me, was when Tim Van Orden in a video talked about that he doesn't eat protein, he just eats fruits and vegetables, which is not his diet anymore, I don't think, by the way, but I don't eat fruits and I don't eat protein, whatever, I eat fruits and vegetables, right? And that was like a light switch going off in my head, as if I've been waiting for someone to tell me that my whole life, sort of thing. Like, that makes total sense. So there's something about the fruit and the raw thing that appeals to certain people because we see it as a very deep truth of human, that all humanity shares. It is a truth that we believe of humanity, that we love fruit, that we can get behind this positive thing of fruit. Plant-based, what are you getting behind? Plant foods, what does that mean? Like any and every plant in the world? Like flowers and stuff? What food are you getting behind? Starches, wow, potatoes, like, yeah, inspiring. But fruit, come on, it's no contest. So this message is so much bigger. It's got so much bigger potential. The whole plant-based vegan thing is going to be dwarfed by the fruit-loving movement, or whatever you want to call it, in time, just because it makes way more sense, essentially. And because it's a deep, fundamental law of human nature. Now, people are resisting it still, even in the plant-based movement. People resist the whole fruit thing. They think the fruit thing's weird. It's funny to me how easy this is. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, even people think, oh, these fruitarians, they eat so much fruit. We don't actually eat that much fruit. I mean, some people do. You do a lot of exercise, you need to eat a lot more. We don't eat that much fruit. We need to eat enough fruit. You have to learn how to eat enough fruit. A lot of people don't eat enough fruit, but it's not over the course of a day, it's not that big a deal. Chimpanzees, even, their diet is like 2,000 calories. 2,000 calories of fruit is not that hard for anyone to do over the course of a 16-hour day, when you have access to, an abundance of fruit without having to work for it, really. So, I just think the message is very powerful to people. So when you say to yourself, well, I'm going to dilute this whole message and say to people, oh, but you don't have to do this fruit thing, you can have cooked food. It's like, it's not a more powerful message to me. It's not a more inspiring message. It doesn't bring more people in, I don't think. I think there's way more people who they're not looking for a diet, they're looking for health. They're like, the people that are coming to this, they're basically, a lot of them, desperate to make some kind of change. They're looking for some kind of change in their life. When I look back, I want you to reflect for yourself, really reflect on what was it. Some of you know for sure it was weight loss. I got to a point, I was like, I need to lose weight. I'm so desperate to lose weight, I'll do anything. And once you open yourself up to the I'll do anything, that's when doing a crazy diet, like a raw vegan diet, is something you go, I'm open to that, because nothing else is working. What about your acne? Some people, it's acne. And the funny thing, like, Ted Carr, for example, he got into this because of acne, of researching about how he could deal with his acne. He never really talked about that, ever. Over years, if you go back to his videos that he's made and his Instagram page, I don't know how often, maybe 1 in 100 posts or something, you would see something about acne, or 1 in 50 or whatever, because he became kind of a leader in the fruitarian movement, right? The raw vegan movement. But he could have become a part of the acne reversal movement or whatever. There's I don't want to say billions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people, like teenagers, probably tens of millions, worldwide looking for a cure to acne, because it is so embarrassing. You know, it is so difficult to deal with. I mean, it makes people feel ugly if they've got a lot of spots, and that's a really strong like emotion. That's what makes people change negative emotions. Unfortunately, like it is these negative emotions often that make people want to make a change and want to look better. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. But people are really embarrassed about that because they actually wanted to change their diet because of vanity and wanting to be more sexually attractive, which is not a bad thing, you know. There's nothing wrong with saying that, right? Now, for other people, for me, I struggle to know the exact thing that made me change, but there was a time where I was really into spiritual development and trying to develop internal energy, you know, if you've ever looked into that. And I thought there was something missing. I remember thinking like I'd done something, like maybe my kidneys or something weren't working right, and that this was like blocking this flow of internal energy. I don't know where I got all these ideas from really, but this is something I remember in my mind. And it's funny because a lot of people get into this whole like, oh, my kidneys aren't working, my adrenals aren't working. And I remember thinking things like that before I'd ever heard about raw food, but because, you know, people get tired and everything and they're like, are my adrenals working right? Right? And I think I was thinking along those lines because I was doing a lot of meditation and stuff, and I was thinking, why haven't I got this big energy surge feeling yet and all that stuff? And I think that might have been part of my interest in when I came across the raw food thing. It was like, I'll try that. But also I remember thinking in my mind, chimpanzees are really strong. Maybe I'll get like super strong and muscly just by eating fruits and vegetables. So I was interested in this, like, if I do this change, make this sacrifice, maybe I'll get these incredible results and it'll totally change me as a person. Like, I think I was interested in that as well, like transformational change, like becoming a different person physically and like all of a sudden being like a chimpanzee or something, or that strong. And when I watched films online, like the original footage from the first Woodstock Fruit Festival, there was all these guys that were ripped and they were like doing somersaults all over the place. I'm like, wow, I almost felt like you go raw vegan, you do somersaults. Like, that's almost how I felt. Not that I actually thought that, but I kind of like was partly the guy, that's what it is. You go raw vegan, you do somersaults. You do loads of push-ups or whatever. Everyone's like full of energy and amazing at, like, and everyone's like, and I did think it would change people's consciousness, and also what appealed to me is like it was a community of people that seemed to be in line with what I wanted, and I'd always been like kind of the healthiest person in the room wherever I was. I didn't drink alcohol, didn't smoke. You know, a healthy lifestyle was always something that made sense to me, and was always something I was slowly moving towards, even though I was eating McDonald's. I didn't have to coke with it, I didn't, you know, or I didn't have the milkshake, or I didn't have something with sugar in it. I didn't have caffeine with it. I didn't smoke, didn't drink, wasn't taking drugs. So I was doing all these, I was taking steps, even though I was still eating, you know, junk food. So it was a slow journey. But I just think that, I guess what I'm trying to say is different things will pull different people in. And don't assume it's easier for a person to do a cooked food diet. Don't assume for them. But don't also assume that if you say, hey, it's cooked food, that they'll go, yeah, I can do that. Like, not necessarily, you know. And some people want to do the extreme change. They want to get the results. They want to get the results. They don't really want the diet. They don't want to have the medal of being a raw vegan. that matters to almost no one. What they want is the life-changing results. They want to live a life, and not have creating disease over and over and over, and having symptoms and feeling bad and all the rest of it. So I don't fully agree with Robbie on that. And the last thing I would personally do is create, with the UK Fruit Fest, for example, is go, do you know what? Let's add some cooked food to the menu. We'll get way more people. It does not work like that. I'm telling you. And a big mistake a lot of restaurants make, raw vegan restaurants, the biggest mistake they all make is they add cooked food to their menu because they think it'll bring more people in. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. There are many cities around the world that have a whole bunch of vegan restaurants. They have no raw vegan restaurant. And one principle in business is it's better to be a niche than to be a general thing. Because you could say about if a vegan restaurant was failing, you could say, well, why don't you add animal products to the menu? But then you're just like a generic restaurant. It's a real problem that restaurants have, is that people open these restaurants and it doesn't like, what's different about this restaurant to the 100 other restaurants within my eye line in this city, right? Or what, maybe not 100, but within walking distance. Like, if you want to grab people and get them to come in, invest time, come into your place, it's got to really appeal to people in some specific way. If you're the only vegan restaurant in your town, that's amazing. But as soon as there's 10 vegan restaurants in your town, well, it might still be amazing because there's a growing number of vegans and people on the plant-based diet. But in terms of you promoting your business, one of the things that people will ask, I don't know why I'm going into a little business chat, but people will ask, why should I go there instead of all these other places? What's different about that? Why don't I go to the vegan restaurant I always go to, that I've been going to for 20 years? Why would I go to that place? What's different? What's special about it? Otherwise, people will just ignore it. And if you're the only raw food restaurant, that's interesting, that's appealing, that's different. And there's a whole bunch of people in any city that have been touched by the idea of raw foods and it appeals to them. They might not even be vegan. That's why there could be even a way bigger audience than you think, because everyone thinks that raw food, raw vegan, is a subgenre of vegan plant-based, like it goes whole, like the, so like the omnivore diet, whatever, eat anything diet is a massive population of people. Within that, vegetarian or flexitarian. Within that, vegetarian. Within that, whatever, pescatarian, whatever. And then we go down to vegan, and then plant-based, like a healthier vegan, and then it's raw vegan, and then it's fruitarian, whatever. And everyone thinks it's like that. But that's not how it works for like a restaurant or something like that, because there's actually this massive audience of people. Everyone's looking to have a healthy meal sometime, and everyone's looking to have something different sometime, and like, why don't we try out this weird raw food place? That's cool, that's interesting, it's different. So that can appeal to many more people than you think. And the big appeal of the raw vegan diet is it's a healthy diet and everyone is sick, right? So you have this massive audience of people to market to. Hey, are you sick? Fat? Feeling terrible? Oh yeah, that's normal. Come to the raw vegan restaurant, get some inspiration. Come and try some of this stuff out. Have a look at the books we've got. Just feel the vibe of the people in the place, That's what I love about raw food restaurants, even though I don't necessarily like the food a lot of the time. Well, I do, but it's kind of not what I would choose to eat a lot of the time. Anyway, I've been away from YouTube for a while, just kind of been, I don't know, Actually, we didn't have Wi-Fi. This is my mum and dad's house that I'm in at the moment. We didn't have Wi-Fi for a while, so I couldn't really upload anything. But I'm back. The Wi-Fi's back. I'll try and upload more. Feel free to leave a question or comment below. But my summary of the video is: don't think that you should broaden out your message or when you're talking to people, you don't have to broaden it out. You know, for some people, the whole idea of look at all these young people who like go into the fruitarian forums and you see people that are like 18 years old fruitarian and stuff like that. Like, they didn't make some jump from here to here to here to here. They didn't do 10 years on a vegan diet, 5 years on a plant-based diet, and then you're ready for raw. It's not like that. You can go straight to it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll put some links down below if you want to buy my book on the raw food lifestyle. I might put a link down below for coaching if you're interested in that. And thank you for watching.